Wake the fuck up, samurai. We have a city to burn.
First off, wow.
I'm really excited.
Everyone agrees that Cyberpunk 2077 so far is living up to the hype.
Yeah, so they were wrong. Cyberpunk at one point was probably the most anticipated game ever. The way this was seen to gamers was as if Jesus Christ himself was coming back for a third time. This was thought to be the game that would bring back the glory days of gaming. There was nothing not to like about Cyberpunk. It was created by CDPR, the studio behind The Witcher 3, arguably the best game in the last console generation. They even had Keanu fucking Reeves. Everything was ready for this game to be Game of the Year, but then it got delayed. Okay, they're probably fixing like small things here and there, like nothing too big. Then another delay. Okay, like maybe a few bugs here and there. They want to make the game, perfect. Then another one. Fuck, probably nothing could go wrong. Like, I'm probably being paranoid here. Like, what's the worst thing that could happen here? When this game finally came out, it had the worst launches of any game I've ever seen. I will probably ever see again. The amount of bugs and glitches we saw was actually insane. From players getting thrown into the air to whatever that is. It was so bad on last gen consoles that PlayStation had to remove it off their store and give customers refunds because of how badly the game ran on the PS4. This was a clusterfuck of a mess that neither gamers or the gaming industry saw coming, especially from CDPR. The once loved studio that was the poster child of what a gaming studio should be ended up becoming the greedy, lying corporation that they villainize in their own bloody game. Which is a shame because the developers clearly put a lot of love and care into what they envisioned this world could be by going above and beyond what gamers expected from them and providing them even more than they could have asked for, by assuring players that the game would contain thousands of different weapons at their disposal, to having completely different playing styles ranging from being a walking tank that only fights using his fists,
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
to being a stealthy cyborg ninja that slashes his enemy with a katana. Or even being a netrunner hacker that takes down his enemies without so much as lifting a finger. All of this combined with a captivating and long-lasting main story and engaging side quests that help players fall in love with the world and the characters that live in it. The developers even planned to reinvent the dialogue system that would have an impact on players' choices and would end up dictating how the story would unfold. The list of promises made by CDPR for Cyberpunk 2077 was seemingly endless. But even with the delays, this game was never ready to be launched back then, and ultimately in doing so, it damaged CDPR's credibility in the long run by releasing a shell of a game filled with bugs and glitches. But not only that, the expectation of what they had promised was so great that they ended up biting far more than they could chew. This left the developers spending months after months, update after update, trying to fix this broken mess of a game and salvage whatever they could in order to have an active player base which would show some form of success for the company. But by the time they ended up having the game at relatively what they wanted at launch, everybody moved on. Everybody lost hope what this game was meant to be and thought Cyberpunk had no chance of ever coming back. At this point, the game was essentially dead. But then something happened.
So what do you want?
No one saw this coming. Edgerunners was the lifeline that Cyberpunk needed. The series did the impossible and somehow convinced people to give Cyberpunk a second chance. It did so well in fact that the game had a recent boost in player count with 1 million people playing the game on a daily basis. I don't think people understand how crazy that is. A month after the game was released back in 2020, the player count went down from over 1 million players to just a little under 80,000 players because of the shit show they did when they first launched the game. So you're probably wondering how a spin-off of a bad video game somehow convinced players to give Cyberpunk a second chance. You're probably asking, is it really that good? Is the hype real? Yes it is. It's real. Cyberpunk Edgerunners takes place before the events of the game, making it a self-contained prequel as CDPR saw potential to tell more stories in the world that they created. With the help of Studio Trigger, who are known for their insane exaggerated visuals and fluid incredible animations that shows off what the best anime has to offer. When I first heard Studio Trigger was working on an anime about Cyberpunk, the first thing that came to my mind was, how the fuck were they gonna turn this into this?
He's fucked in the head. The world's fucked in the head. And you're fucked in the head because my fucked up head is inside it.
They did it by putting restrictions on them, which is probably for the best, you know, because they're known for stuff like this. Edgerunners follows a street kid named David Martinez. His mom is overworked and barely making ends meet, so she can send him to a prestigious school in hopes that Dave could have a better life and make it to the top of Arasaka Tower. Unfortunately, one day David and his mother are caught in the crossfire between two rival gangs on the street, which leads to his mother being killed. David is heartbroken and tormented by his bullies, so he decides to use an implant that his mother had left behind, conveniently, to modify his body. He eventually meets Lucy and her crew, and they want David's implant, but he makes a deal with them, agreeing that he will work on gigs to pay them back instead. One leads to another, and before you know it, he gets himself into a lot of fucked up shit, which all builds up to an exciting, satisfying conclusion to the story. Night Sea and the entire Cyberpunk vibe was brilliantly adapted into animated form by the studio. Flashing lights and shady characters lurking around every corner. The Night Sea atmosphere was perfectly captured. The stark contrast between corpos and the streets are obvious, as every scene involving corporation is painted with a deep, dark, monotone color palette. On the other hand, streets are alive with beautiful colors and vibrant energy. Edgerunners effectively shows the contrast between classes through their artwork. Great visuals are complemented by the amazing music. It doesn't matter if you were talking about the little sound effects, themes, or opening and endings of the songs. In terms of quality, Edgerunners' music is clearly up there with the visual, and you can't tell me you weren't playing this banger of a song on repeat as soon as the show ended. Within the short time frame of the show, the pacing of the overarching storyline is done well in a manner as you get to grow and care for these characters in such a short time period. Characters like Maine dealing with his cyber psychosis due to his heavy implants, or even Lucy dealing with her trauma from her past life, excellently gives depth to these seemingly one-dimensional characters at first glance. What's smart is that he essentially has no choice at any point in the show. When you consider how little control he has in his own life, it's tough to blame him for what he becomes. If I were to summarize everything into one sentence, Edgerunners basically made me and everyone else want to go back and play Cyberpunk. Which I did. I'm gonna let you in a little secret. I actually never played the game when it first came out. I can't lie. I fell into the pack honestly believing what everyone's saying about the game and how buggy it was and how terrible the game ran. So I just never thought it was worth getting at the time. So I was genuinely surprised when I ended up spending the next 3 days sitting in my room grinding for 50 hours like a caveman until I finished the game. And after playing that, I can officially say that CDPR actually made a pretty amazing game. Cyberpunk isn't the game it was supposed to be, but I don't think any game could have lived up to the hype and expectation what a game like that could have had to satisfy everyone's desires. Night City is probably one of the best looking modern futuristic cityscapes in a video game. I genuinely think it's a beautiful area to roam around and explore. Night City is filled with people who are no longer clones of each other, and nor do they respond in stupid ways similar to when they're in danger around. Thanks to CDPR noticeably sustaining the increased population density of the map, which doesn't make the place feel like a wasteland and actually feel like a real city. The story of Cyberpunk is pretty amazing. You get to choose V's origin story, but in his trip through Night City, ups and downs filled with fun action and some surprisingly heartbreaking moments. While in the beginning, with a huge heist gone wrong, there is enough to explore and enjoy with various missions and interaction thanks to his relationship with Johnny Silverhand. Johnny is self-centered and egotistical, but he's also a pretty charismatic rockstar as well. He has strong feelings against Arasaka and he ends up being absolutely right about the threat Arasaka poses against humanity, a threat that is arguably achieved after he died. Johnny, despite his impulsiveness, is proven to be a smart guy and he slowly starts to show his kindness and empathy in some situations, to the point where he sometimes even becomes your angel on your shoulder rather than the devil. But he always finds a way to somehow be a fucking cunt. But not only him, you have a cast of characters such as Panam, Judy, Takamura and River. The game features a fascinating cast of characters. While the main story is pretty short, there are more than enough content to keep you busy with side missions, gigs and cyber psychosis attacks. The characters actually develop and change as the story progresses, with V's the love-hate relationship with Johnny and the dynamic being the most interesting aspect of the game. The ability to affect game story also had an impact on the overall experience. It was cool to be able to take different directions, talk my way out of conflict, and pick how to deal with potential friends and enemies throughout the game. While some argue that there aren't many choices that impacted the game, I have to disagree. Cyberpunk choices do matter, just not to the extent that you would expect. You can fail missions and stories will keep going. You can save lives here and there that benefits you later. You can sneak into an area without having to touch a weapon. You can play it your way and the way you play will have an effect on the game. Kinda. The essence of what CDPR and Studio Trigger conveyed in their harsh, brutal world run by corpos is that V and David aren't your typical hero that comes to save the day. They aren't doing the morally right thing because they have to. They're two people trying to survive in a world that doesn't want them here. They're trying to leave a mark on this world, meaning something to people they care about, having a legacy that the city will see them as a legend, the ones that didn't allow the city to stop them from becoming the person they needed to be. Cyberpunk isn't about saving humanity, it's about saving yourself.